So, Darryl, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership.
Sure, it's great to be here. Thank you.
It's great to have you on the show, Darryl. And before we walk into the future, can you please tell us a little bit about your background? Where did you grow up?
So, Johannesburg, born and raised. Yeah, I've been here my whole life. Went to Wits University and started my engineering career. I studied civil structural engineering and started working for Murray and Roberts for Concourse Civils as a contractor. I then went into design after a couple of years, and eventually I moved out of the design office and started Delta Scan, where we focus on driving technology innovation around the engineering markets and the infrastructure markets.
Now, Darryl, before we come to Delta Scan and what you're doing now, can you tell us what was your dream career when you grew up?
So it's a bit of a funny one. You know, I didn't have my mind set on one particular area. I think there was really three kind of interests that kept me busy throughout my life. The one was I was a provincial swimmer. That was what consumed most of my time almost until my early university days. So naturally, I was drawn to something to do with sport, and I always liked physiotherapy, biokinetics. But at the same time, I loved creativity. I loved art, and I was drawn to architecture. But I also loved math and science. And you know, always building things, Lego, Meccano, and doing things with my hands. Ultimately, you know, the reality was I stood there in a university application, and I said, let's just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and I landed up doing engineering.
Darryl,
That was really how I got into it in the beginning.
right. And Darryl, who inspired you in your early days?
So I'll talk about really the technology side of things because I'm in a technology business. I've always been obsessed with innovation, with the latest gadget, with the world of 3D, with computers. When I started doing engineering, when I talk about the early days, I'll talk more early career. Engineering is exciting. I like to look at engineering as analytical beauty. There's beauty in the math and the science. The problem with that is it's also an industry that likes to do things the same way it's always been done because it's worked. The attitude of an engineer generally is, if it's worked, you know, for the last few decades, why change? Now, the rest of the world around us was evolving at an incredibly fast pace. You know, I started when I was in the design office, drones started coming out. I think AI was starting to be developed. And I used to look outside at the world and the news and just see things were moving at a much faster rate than the industry that I was in was. From a person point of view, there's definitely, you know, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. Those have always been role models in the technology space that I've looked up to. There was something inside of me when I was doing engineering and I just saw how technology and engineering could fit together. You have to sometimes break free of the norms and you have to try new things and figure out, does it work? You know, can you actually create something out of this? And I look at a lot of quotes when I always look at the great minds of this world. The quote is really where I think it summarizes and captures the essence of really large concepts. So there's a couple that I look to. You know, Jeff Bezos says, you have to be willing to be misunderstood if you're going to innovate. And it's really true. And I see that all the time. When I started my career, I told very close friends I wanted to go into drones. Actually, I wanted to leave engineering. I was in a great job. You know, I was doing great things. I was enjoying it. And I said, I want to break away and I want to start something with drones. And they said, "Are you crazy? You know, what are you talking about? You want to go play with toys? You've got an engineering career ahead of you." And I said, "But there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more that's going to happen." Um, and Steve Jobs really also puts it in a good way around what creativity is about. Creativity, he says, is connecting things. when you ask a creative person how they did something, you feel guilty because you don't ever create something from scratch, but you connect all the dots. And once you see how things fit together, it opens up a new world, a new industry, new innovations. And really, that's how I'd like to think my mind works as well.
Now, Darryl,
Yeah.
as a leading innovator, and I believe DataScan won a number of awards, including a big innovation award. As a leading innovator in South Africa and across the world, at the edge of technology, can you maybe, looking back over your career, would you say there was a turning point, especially relating to what you're doing today, and maybe a lesson for startup founders?
Yeah, so there definitely was a turning point. It wasn't something that happened overnight though. I was at the time working for an engineering firm, as I mentioned. I was a consultant design engineer, a structural engineer, and my boss also embraced technology. Now he had an attitude of if you found a new way of doing things. You know, if in your own time you thought you could do it better, or there was a new software or a new piece of technology, you could bring it to him. And if you can prove a strong case, he would say, go for it. You know, do it differently. Maybe everyone in the office can learn something by doing that. And that kind of innovative thinking really allowed me, it gave me the space to start developing these solutions. And ultimately, what was happening is I would work 8 hours a day for the company doing design work, and I would go home and I would work 8 hours a night researching, innovating, tinkering, breaking things, trying to develop these digital tools around the engineering space that I really saw coming together. And I also then started doing business classes. There were after hours classes I attended at an organization called Ort, and it was just how sometimes you need to take that leap of faith. My fear at the time was I had a family, I had kids already, I was working a job, and I was really reliant on a salary. And I never felt that I could leave. I never, how can you go from covering your bills to starting from scratch and hoping it works? So I approached my boss at the time and I said, look, I've been working on this for a while. This technology, it's really working. He was also benefiting from it. We were using it in the company and it was really taking off. And I said, I'm thinking about breaking away. I'm thinking about going to look for some sort of investment and maybe doing this full time. So he said to me, you know what? Don't do that. Keep building your solutions. I'm going to keep paying your bills. I'm going to keep covering your salary. But as long as we both can benefit from them, you're building solutions that are helping the engineering industry, that's helping my own company. Take the time you need and get them right. Get them to an MVP, to a minimal viable product, and let's see if it works. And he said, really, just take the time and see what happens. So within, I think, 1 or 2 months, I'd already started piecing together these solutions as a product, and we started selling them, and it just took off. And it got to a point where there was more work coming in from what I was doing at the time than from the engineering side of things. And that was really the turning point where I said to myself, you know what? This can be a full-time career. This is what I love. This is what I'm passionate about. It's giving me the creative freedom that I crave. And that was it. I started Delta Scan with my boss at the time. He became an early partner in the business. And that's really where it got going.
So, Darryl, can you tell us a little bit about the awards, the Innovation Award you won, DataScan won? What was it all about?
So we've won a couple of awards. I think the most exciting and the most recent was we won the top technology startup in Africa. This was for a company, it's a global company called Pegasus Ventures, and they run the biggest event in the world for startup companies in the technology space specifically. They hosted an event in South Africa in Cape Town last year. I actually saw it come through as an email. I didn't make anything of it. Somebody said, hey, you guys are doing really interesting things. Do you want to enter? So I put through 2-minute video, a pitch video. I answered a couple of questions. I went to Cape Town, not really expecting anything. It was a really well put together event. There were companies, incredible companies from all over Africa. So what Africa did was different to the rest of the world is they held the event for the whole African continent to choose one winner. What I then found out when we won ultimately is that each individual country did their own events from around the world. So very surprisingly, we won the top startup in Africa. Our pitch won. It was a quick 5-minute pitch on stage, which focused on the the benefits of your technology. What solutions are you trying to solve? What is your target market and your segments look like, and what is the potential for the product to expand or to grow and to scale? We then went to Silicon Valley in December last year, which was the world finals of the top technology startups, and it was an unbelievable eye-opening experience to be around those minds that are out there in the Silicon Valley area, and to just see the innovation and the mentorship, and also the funding is a really big part of it. The venture capital that's available in those kind of markets, it was fantastic, and I took a lot really out of that.
Darryl, you're leading at the edge of technology. Your product is helping many clients across the world. What is it that's driving you? What is it that's really motivating you and fueling you every single day?
Mm-hmm. So, when you start developing something, you got to be really optimistic that it's going to work. You just got to have this unwavering passion that what you're building is going to be really game changing, and you keep working on it. And once you start delivering your first products to your customers, the most important thing I think for an early stage startup to do is to get feedback, to say, has this helped you? Is this what you were looking for? Did it go beyond your expectations? And once you get those early successes and that early positive feedback, it really starts fueling the passion. It starts fueling the fire for you to continue. One of the phrases that I really love to use, and I use it all the time when I talk at conferences, is when you're building a product, you don't want to build a vitamin, because vitamins are nice to have. What we want to build is painkillers, because painkillers are something you can't live without. So the solution you need to build has to be so powerful and so impactful that the client, the customer, can't go back to the old way of doing things. Now, in the world of technology, the rate of new developments, both on the software and the hardware side, is incredibly fast. It's actually difficult to keep up with. And if you take your eye off the ball for too long, if you ever get comfortable, or even worse, if you get complacent, it's very, very easy to fall behind, because you're not the only one. You're going to have competitors, and they're always innovating all around you. So I don't think there will ever be a time when I can say I'm happy with the product. It's done and it's finished. Everything can be improved. There's always new things that can be created. And I really like the approach of continuous optimization. There's always a way of making it better and improving on it. The motivation, I would say, is around impacting efficiency, safety, as well as sustainability. And that's what keeps you motivated to keep going.
Now, Darryl, as a global innovation leader in technology, you're leading a team, you're leading an industry, you're leading your clients. So what does the future of leadership mean to you? What do you see for future leaders? What should they be about? How should they go about?
Sure. So this is there's quite a lot to this question, because I think I can touch on quite a few different aspects. I'd like to approach leadership, in a technology business, maybe a little bit differently to other industries. What we see around us is there is a deep integration of technology, emotional intelligence, and sustainability within leadership. Leaders will need to be adept at managing cross-disciplinary teams. A lot of the people we work with are from all around the world. When we travel, when we sell products, we realize you really have to be agile at working with lots of different skill sets and lots of different disciplines around the world, while at the same time driving innovation that aligns with ethics and standards that promotes, a long-term societal benefit. This is one of the big debates around AI at the moment is it ethical? Where is it going to go? How do you control it? And so the future of leadership, I think, is profoundly intertwined with the advancements in technology. As we progress into a more digital or a digitized era, the role of a leader, transcends traditional boundaries. It becomes more about navigating these technology transformations and leveraging the advancements in the technology to foster growth, to foster innovation, as well as sustainability. And this goes into the decision-making process, utilizing existing technologies, but also what's very important is, and it's a difficult one, is anticipating and preparing for future technology disruption. We're in a new era. AI has just begun, and the advancements and the tools that are coming out are accelerating incredibly fast. Now, I wouldn't say that everyone needs to learn all of them and know how to use all of them, but it needs to become a part of the roadmap. It needs to be part of your future plans. I think I'll leave it at that. There's a lot more I can touch on. Driving the innovation side, enhancing communication and the way that we collaborate using technology. For sure, the ethical considerations and the responsibility as well.
So, Darryl, startups and scale-ups like DeltaScan are vitally important to the future, right? To building a better future. What is your experience? What does it we have to do more to develop leaders like yourself, to develop future-minded leaders that really take us to the next level?
So one of the biggest concepts that I've learned, and I've learned it the hard way, is you have to fail before you get it right. And unfortunately, I've seen in the South African market, maybe the African market, is that failure is sometimes or more often than not looked down on. If you talk to an investor, they don't like risk. They want to be in a situation where the product doesn't work the first time. And it's a very difficult pill to swallow. But the reality is, when you're building stuff, you have to be ready to fail because you're not going to get it right. You need to be brave because you need to know that even if it's not working now, you got to keep going at it and it will work in the future. You need to be curious, which is incredibly important. You need to look at the world around you. I love reading technology blogs. I love learning about the latest innovations, from digital tools to robotics to AI. And when you just consume that information on a daily basis, it keeps the imagination going, it keeps the passion there. The most crucial lesson is the importance of adaptability and continuous learning. A landscape of a technology business is continuous evolution. You're never going to stop. And I don't think there's one technology business in the world that has made a product and left it. Every couple of months, maybe sometimes every couple of weeks these days, there's a new firmware, there's a new software update on a phone, there's a new release. And that's because technology is evolving quickly around us. And for a leader, you have to have the ability to adapt and learn on the fly. That is what's indispensable.
Now, Darryl, these are challenging times, especially for entrepreneurs across the world. What is your advice for future leaders, for future tech leaders maybe? What are some of the who are seeking to build new solutions like DeltaScan? What should future technology leaders, what challenges should they expect in their career?
Sure. So I think there'll be a lot of challenges around, the technology disruptions that I've already touched on, managing diverse teams, globally dispersed workforces, this concept of everyone being in an office is no longer the case. We've realized in the modern technology world that there's skill sets from all over the globe that are very important to have in an organization. And then with all of that, with this new workforce and with this new technology, we now have to navigate the complexities of the new form of ESG. So there's a new era of environmental, social, and governance, I think, that's coming through with the new technology that's coming out. And what I mentioned before, the biggest challenge that a leader needs to get over is you have to break it before you make it. You have to really fail, learn that that's a stepping stone to create better products, and just keep pushing from there.
Now, Darryl, skills development is utmost important to all of us. If you were to design a curriculum for future tech leaders, what are maybe one or two new skills you would want to factor in?
So I think mastering digital literacy as a whole is very, very important. Data analytics goes hand in hand with that. Additionally, soft skills like empathetic leadership, cross-cultural communication, and this strategic decision making are all very, very important. In its most basic form, I think a modern day leader needs to start embracing the world of AR. And the reason is most leaders have to learn the art of delegating. A conventional, traditional leader that's taken a business from zero and been able to scale has to learn the skill really of handing something off to someone else so that the business can scale. And you can't be in the same place at the same time. You have to build systems and tools for the business to organically grow itself. And one of the most powerful ways that I see that happening around us is through AR assistance, using artificial intelligence to proof documents, coming up with ideas, testing theories, navigating new developments, and even summarizing large volumes of text or complex documents. There are such powerful tools that improves and the efficiency, the way that we have done things in the past, and it's really accelerating growth. And I think it's leading the world in a very new and exciting direction.
Now, Darryl, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Sure. So maybe I'm going to actually turn the tables on this one and give it from a personal point of view, if that's okay. So when I was starting out Delta Scan, there's an AI business consultant. His name is Dean Furman, and he's not the soccer player. He's another Dean Furman, and he was one of the big influences in my career of embracing digital technology. In fact, he wrote a book. I think it was called Exponential Potential, which is embracing modern era tools that are available on the internet. It was almost 6-7 years ago, I think, that I read the book, and back then there was just a world that hit me in the face all at once that I couldn't believe that was out there, and it really was one of the big shifts in my career. On top of that, one of the hardest things for a person to do is to pass on responsibility. Especially when you're an engineer, when you like developing and creating things, you start getting a sense that you can do it better because you've worked on it for so long and you understand it better. It's very difficult to allow people to go and figure it out on their own and make mistakes. But the beauty of taking a step back, and when I speak about a business as a whole or an organization, is it's a very important step to take, is to allow your staff, your employees, to learn on their own, to experiment on their own, to allow their own creative juices to get to work, and also being put in difficult situations, because that's what stimulates the growth. That's what stimulates new ideas, new creativity, stuff that you not necessarily would have thought of yourself. And they come up with their own strategies that work for them. And I think, without pinpointing one individual, it's very important for an organization to do that.
Darryl, as a student in leadership and global technology leader, are there any role models of leadership that you would recommend future leaders should study and learn from?
So it's also a very loaded question, this one, and it's it's something that's been on my mind for a while. Is what does a good leader look like? Now, in the space of a technology business, it's probably not the best example of what the world sees as good leadership. If you look at the likes of an Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs, I don't know if you've read their book. I've recently read Elon Musk's biography. Fascinating book. And in the beginning pages, in fact, the opening paragraph, the author, forget his name now, but he starts out by saying, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, all these really great, innovative thinkers, these world-changing thinkers, were not nice people to be around. They were really incredibly difficult taskmasters, perfectionists. Take no nonsense. If you don't do the work well, you're fired on the spot. So I think it's a bit dangerous to say that's what it takes to build a good technology company, to be like that. But at the same time, you have to be able to read those kind of books and take the positives out of it, understand their way of taking risks, of thinking out of the box, of dreaming big. So I still look to them as my role models, but I feel personally that there's a better way of doing things. You don't have to be this strict taskmaster that
Right.
rules like a disciplinarian or
Now,
a
Darryl,
dictator rather. Yeah.
right. So tell us, Darryl, where can our listeners follow you? Where can they follow DeltaScan? Where can they stay up to date?
So I'm also most active. My company is most active on LinkedIn. I think that's a fantastic business network environment. It's one of our favorite tools we use to research about what's happening in the industry and other industries, as well as sharing our own knowledge. So if you follow the DeltaScan page on LinkedIn, we post a lot of really great content about what we're busy with. And I also post on my own profile. If you search for Darryl Epstein, you'll find me. And I love posting articles about new technologies and stuff that I think is changing the business environment.
Thank you. Now, last but not least, Darryl, what is your advice for the millions of learners out there who are looking to finish school, start a career, maybe go into tech, become entrepreneurs? What are maybe one or two success principles they should keep in mind?
So definitely dream big. You have to dream big. Don't ever put yourself down and think you have to conform to everything that's happening around you. If you feel that you can do something or there's an opportunity, explore it, go for it, be curious. You have to be curious. You have to want to learn new things. You have to want to experiment and explore what's out there and keep learning. You got to keep yourself educated. As I said, there's so many new forms of technology, of ways of communicating. Fortunately, a lot of it is being brought into the school education system. I believe I have kids in school from early primary school. They're doing robotics and they're doing coding, and it's really exciting to see, because I think those new kind of tools are so important to drive the future of businesses that are going to come out in the market and hopefully change the world.
Well, Darryl, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership and for leading us into a better world.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate your time as well.